So, hello, dear audience. This is the annual IDSA update session. We had to start a little late due to the General Assembly of IDSA that has taken place before. There are a lot of elections, and in virtual mode it takes a little bit longer. So now everyone is here, and probably a lot of people are moving from the General Assembly right to the annual IDSA update. So I see like numbers really going up quickly, and still some people will join in the next minute probably. But therefore, I would like to start. Thorsten, I'm the first one, right? So is it okay that I start?
Of course, just go through, and I think Andreas will take care of all the slides, right?
That's great. So Andreas and all the team, thank you for preparing the annual update session and contribute all the great input, also make the organization happen. Thank you for that. Good morning, good afternoon, maybe even it's in the night for you. So we are the International Dataspaces Association, and we have, well, truly members from all over the world. So I'm happy that I do see like a lot of people from everywhere, also with letters that some of us might not understand. That shows that we are truly international. Great to have you all here. Thank you for your commitment for being here. Without further ado, I would like to go to the agenda for this annual IDSA update. We have made it a tradition to share well, the achievements of the year and an outlook shortly before the seasonal holidays, the end of the year. And this is exactly what we are doing here. So this is like for a bigger ecosystem, and not only for IDSA members. So therefore, for those who have not been with us before, hello again. And well, we will walk you through our main assets we are working on. The colleagues will give you the best insights you can get, and also the hottest and latest things. So you can read through it, please, on your own. Otherwise, we will spend too much time. I will start with a short introduction. Next slide, exactly. So you can see like 5-minute slots. This is a super speedy setup, and there will be a lot of events in the next year where we have more time to discuss and to share all the insights. So stay tuned, become an IDSA member if you are not so far. This is really a great ecosystem, and we are doing important stuff. This is all based on consensus and all the different insights and viewpoints. So please join us at the table and the forefront of data spaces. Next slide, please. So I want to give you an overview on IDSA's position in this like big, complex, sometimes jungle-like ecosystem of organizations that work on data spaces. So every time you show such a slide, it's always wrong, outdated, and something is missing. So please don't take that as the single truth. It is just an attempt to show that data spaces are an holistic endeavor. And well, why is it an holistic endeavor? Because we are truly conducting a paradigm shift. We are doing the trajectory towards the data economy to make it happen. And at the end, it's, well, what is the data economy? So this is all the nice digital things that we want to see, but also artificial intelligence. And can you imagine artificial intelligence without having access to all the data that is available? You can't, right? I cannot as well. so don't others, but it's of essence to have access to data. And most of the data is currently not shared. Like 80% of the data is not shared. Why? Because people do not trust in the ecosystem. People, companies do not know if they really should share data with someone they don't know on the other continent or so. So therefore, we need to insert trust and what we call data sovereignty. So everyone should be in the condition to decide what happens with his or her data. And that is what we call data sovereignty and usage control and everything that is tied to it. Well, that calls for different perspectives. So not only technical frameworks and components, this is where IDSA is based mostly and the dear friends, but also defining governance for data spaces, also regarding personal data, coordination activities, advocating. We still need to make politicians familiar with the issue and also society. And then we also have to deal with all the frame conditions and also like global challenges like sustainability development goals. Well, this is a big thing. And therefore, it's an ecosystem game. And we only can do if we work together with all our friends and partners that you can see displayed here to make the big vision that you can see at the bottom left part, the data spaces happen. And we see more and more of them flourishing. Next slide, please. So this was the big picture, and I'm super happy to probably be the first one to present that slide. So the result from the DSBA presidents and CEOs meeting, so with the GaiaX, IDSA, Big Data Value Association, and Fiverr Foundation, we've sat together the whole day yesterday and said, like, okay, how can we really work on the regulatory, business, and technical foundation for data spaces within the edge cloud continuum. And this is exactly the challenge that we are facing. And therefore, there's also no misspelling with the commas. So we need to bring technology, regulation, and the business solution together, because otherwise it does not work and fly. And that is our view on the world. And you can see it starts like with the world. So there are different data regulations in different economic regions. And there are different data strategies in place to implement it, like the Data Spaces Support Center in Europe. But there are also similar activities elsewhere. And we would like to learn, how is it done in China, in the US, in Brazil, in India, in Japan? So therefore, this is also a call for input, because this view graph is hot off the press and brand new. So therefore, there might things be missing. What we want to say is, we have teamed up as Dataspace Business Alliance to create a first set of technical convergence, so to say, framework for data spaces, so that we combine all the user requirements, be the voice of the communities, coordinate all this technical specification and business requirements, well, do the business design, so to say, so that it can be brought into standards. And while we do not build software, we need technical implementations. We need like software building. Open source software is a part of the answer. We need to give the developer communities a clear place, but there are also other activities which are like truly proprietary, truly commercial. So we have a plethora of these activities. So with Eclipse, with Fireware, Simple is now on stage, Data EX in Japan, and as mentioned, a lot of things that are happening behind the curtain. Please unveil it and bring it to the table. Join our discussion so that we can really build global standards. That is what we need. And this is also like the foundation of IDSA strategy on the next slide that you can see now. This is our strategy, and the dear colleagues will shed a light on all the different aspects. I really run through it. So we know that we are facing the edge cloud continuum with a lot of cloud native technologies. So we do no longer have like the black box that does everything. It's a little bit more complex. So we have to rethink and accept that in our technical specifications. for example, in the RAM, the reference architecture model. And the very easy thing for everyone out there is the Dataspace protocol. This is our central asset. It's part of the IDS reference architecture, and it is like the internet protocol. So you need it so that all the nice things on top work. No one really knows how it works at the end. So do you know how the internet protocol works? But you need to have it. Otherwise, Dataspaces will not work. And that is what we are currently consensually defining and designing. And this is a strong thing for next year. So IDSA, we have coined the term Dataspaces, and we still want to really advocate and preach for Dataspaces because still, for most of the companies and people, it's new, and also like politicians and society, we need to educate. We team up, I mentioned that, with all our friends, and we need to work on products, software components, services, offerings. We need to ship technology as commodity, so to say, so that everyone can join a Dataspace. AI will never work if not everyone is happy to share data. And therefore, we need Dataspaces with the trust and the data sovereignty built inside. We will focus on open source software projects because we believe that this will speed up the evolution of components. We need to adjust our certification accordingly. And we see that consulting is key. Why? Because the very first design of a data space, of a data sharing ecosystem, this is crucial. So respect, it needs to stick to IDSA concepts, to Gaia architecture, to the blueprint of the Data Spaces Support Center. Well, who understands that? So we need to guide people. And let's see what we can make on that end. Training is key. We will start a training program. We will define the Dataspace body of knowledge in the working group training of IDSA. And we invite training providers and other organizations to build their content on top of this Dataspace body of knowledge. And we invite our ecosystem to add content that is needed. We need all the help we can to build all the data spaces. So the colleagues from the Netherlands said, we will have, in the next 5 years, 1,000 data spaces. We need to build them. Currently, we are talking about 5 or 2 handful of data spaces. So therefore, it's a huge thing. We need everyone we can have. So promote data spaces. Please let everyone know about it. And we need to see that constantly, that it is in line with what users out there want to have, and that it is exactly what each data space endeavor wants to have while they are building their data space. So therefore, we will have intense consultations next year with users and with data space governance authorities, so those who actually really need and build and live in a data space in 24. This is our strategy, roughly, and my dear colleagues will let you know more about all the details that are on this slide and even more. Please be part of that journey, support and co-create what we are doing in IDSA. I think we are really crafting the future, and this is really an historic movement that we are in. I'm really honored to be part of that and really happy to work together with all of you. And it's great to see such a huge, huge number of people shortly before Christmas dialed in. Well, thank you for being here. And with that, I hand over to my next.
Yeah, to me, basically.
So thank you to coordinate and moderate.
Thank you, Lars, for this great update and also for bringing us, let's say, in line with what will happen and a little bit also outlooking to the strategy of IDSA. So now I want to introduce Sebastian Steinbuss, the CTO of IDSA. And Sebastian, please go ahead with some insights on the IDSA RAM.
Yeah, thank you, Thorsten. Thank you, Lars, for the great words. Thanks to all of you for joining. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're located today. So happy to support what Lars just said. So we have a plan for 2024, and afterwards we have a strategy. And of course, working on our reference architecture model is an important part of that one. And of course, we are working towards the next version, IDS Reference Architecture Model 5. So that's a great thing, but what will change? So on the next slide, you will see where our requirements basically come from. So what we did in IDSA and what we do in IDSA, we work on the IDSA rulebook. The IDSA rulebook will give us the foundation, the function requirements, what a data space basically is, because what all of you know is, and what Lars just mentioned, the data space is not only about technology, it's not only about building an architecture, building protocols. It's a combination of business requirements, regulatory requirements, and also then in the end, technical requirements. And this is what we bring together with the IDSA rulebook. And this has to guide us. These are our requirements, how we shall build a data space and how technology, how an architecture can support a data space. And so this is one figure that I grabbed from the current IDSA rulebook with the foundational concepts of the data space. So of course, we want to share and use data to create value out of this. This on the foundation of trust. And then we need those important aspects like data discoverability. You have to find my data, otherwise you can't use it. We need to negotiate a contract. I want to express what the rules and obligations are for my data. You would want to understand my data with vocabulary, semantic models, and maybe such data transactions needs to be observed with provenance tracking or traceability, how the data was used. And then on top of that, all those cool optional components and services and use cases that you will find on top of that. So this is guiding us since the beginning. So, well, this is nothing new so far. But we have one important thing on the next slide that is a little bit new. So it's not completely new, but we understand things are changing. So this is another view graph from the IDSA rulebook. And you will see on the right side, there is a participant. So this is typically you. You want to join a data space and you want to share data, you want to use data, you want to do the value creation out of it. But there is another role in such a data space. It's a data space authority or data space governance authority. So a body may be an organization, may be just a contract, whatever it is, but this data space authority does something to manage the data space as a whole, managing participants and managing and maintaining the rules and policies of your data space, wherever they come from. And so this is not completely new, but we shed a broader light on this because this is important. This is what we see from all the data spaces that are growing, that they are slightly different, but they have something in common. And this has to be considered in more detail than we did it in the reference architecture model 4 and all the reference architecture models that we had before. And this includes the fact that they may have different approaches to build up a data space, being it a real centralized authority, being it a completely decentralized network of participants, or wants to strive for federation because, well, there are different data spaces, but they want to federate. Somehow you're part of a larger one. And this needs to be reflected from all the different levels that we see from the legal perspective, the organizational perspective, semantic and technical perspective. Well, that is basically our job. And this is what we started with reference architecture model 5. For the challenges on the next slide, so what we do with reference architecture model 5. And big news, so we'll have a new version before summer 2024. I doubt that this will be the final reference architecture model 5, but it will be a draft that will give you some ideas, some guidance, how it will look like, because we have exactly what the challenge that we will see on this packed slide. We have today a strong focus on the connector, the perspective of a data space participant. But we need a more modular structure to guide each and every user of such a reference architecture model to its final goal to build data spaces. So, and we have the three perspectives at least inside, from how you build a data space as a data space authority. So what's my job if we now meet in a room and say, hey, we want to build a data space together. We want to collaborate and build a data space together. What do we have to do? What are the decisions that we have to take? I want to join into an existing data space as a participant, or I want to provide value-adding services, ecosystem services towards a data space. Different viewpoints to the same thing. And we want to guide all of you based on the decisions that you have to take during the journey on the different layers that we have. So what's a business rationale for that? What's our functional requirements? How is the information model structured? What kind of processes do I have to implement? And what kind of systems do I have to build? And by the way, how are they built? Do you build a cool centralized component? Do you rely on a decentralized network? Whatever you do. We wanted to guide you. So this will be the reference architecture model 5. It will not be a linear document anymore like we had in all the other reference architecture models. Start at page 1, end at page 120, and then you're good to go. No, we want to support you in this decision-making process to understand what is my viewpoint, what am I going to build, a value-adding service, an ecosystem service. I want to join just as a participant, or I am a group and I want to build a data space together. We will guide you through all the decisions that you have to take up to, well, there are different barriers how you can implement it. What is the common ground that all of you have to do? And what are your design choices that you have? This is our focus at the moment. This is what we are working on to provide this first structure, how we can support this decision-making process, and add all the great content, all the wisdom that we have, all the expertise to the document step by step to build this reference architecture model 5. So it's up to you, especially to the IDSA members. Join us on this path and let's build the reference architecture model 5 together. And now back to you, Thorsten.
Thank you, Sebastian, for this great overview. And we are jumping right to the Dataspace protocol. This, as explained by Lars and Sebastian, is of utmost importance for global interoperability. And I'm very happy that my dear colleague Anil will talk about this. Anil, are you in the call?
I think I am. So good evening, afternoon, morning to everyone, and thank you, Thorsten, for the introduction. As mentioned previously in many occasions, so this is one of the most important IDSA assets that we can use for interoperability. So in the next slides, when we see these 4 layers of interoperability, which are as per new European interoperability framework. So basically, all dataspace instances should be able to communicate to each other seamlessly on the 4 layers. So on legal layer, on organizational layer, so they should be able to share contracts with each other, data sharing contracts, and on the organizational level, they should be able to align their business processes. On the semantic level, they should be able to use the same language, and on the technical level, the message types and all this kind of things that come along with technical interoperability should be aligned at least. We are promoting this idea, the term called intra-dataspace interoperability and inter-dataspace interoperability in many occasions, and saying that all dataspace instances or all dataspace implementations should be able to communicate seamlessly with the others. Whether they are from the same industry or different industries or different types. So anyway, Dataspace protocol is a great step forward to ensure this inter-dataspace interoperability as well, especially on the technical and semantic levels. So in the next slide, there we are seeing these the most maybe radical change of approach that comes along with the Dataspace protocol, which is the separation of the control plane and the data plane. So this has many advantages, which are actually listed in the next slide. So one of them, one of the biggest advantages here is this flexibility, because you are basically separating the decision-making layer from the action-taking layer. So so that you can concentrate on these 2 pieces separately, by having priorities for each of them. So basically you can, for the security, so you can control, you can just focus on the secure and trusted data exchange on the control plane, and you can just improve the efficiency of the data transfer in the data plane. So this also makes you easily scale it up for any other context, and it also gives you the chance to have a modular system, so that you can basically change the data transfer process without affecting the control mechanism and vice versa. And so as mentioned, so in the next slide, there is this similarity that we see between the 2 technologies evolutions, which are the internet and the data spaces. What is really similar to us is that Both are made with the motivation, with the sole motivation to share data between some parties. But once you zoom out and see that still the majority of the projects are having this issue of this fragmented structure. So they share data, but between themselves. So this is not the mission of IDSA or any other data sharing initiative, I guess. So as part of that, so we need to adopt the Dataspace protocol and also come up with some usable solutions that make the technology accessible and usable for everyone. So what is good is that all these things that came up through the internet evolution, they are coming up in a single package within the Dataspace protocol, but we need implementations of that. So that's in the next slides. You are welcome to check the GitHub repository and the documentation on the IDS knowledge base. So we need collaborators on that, and it's always open. We have a stable version now, so you are welcome to join. And then I give it back to you, Thorsten. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Anil. And great that we have this Dataspace protocol inside. Please also follow the chat there, my colleagues who are also continuously linking or chatting, writing the links there. Now, Eclipse Dataspace Working Group, back to Sebastian Steinbuss in the Dortmund head office studio. Please, Sebastian, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Thorsten. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Anil. So, yes, thanks for bringing up the slide. So IDSA is turning 8 next year. Did you know that? Well, we are since more than 7 years on the stage. And this makes you think, oh, are we doing the right things at the moment? Do we still follow our path and vision? I mean, we are an association with members. And I mean, we had a clear goal that we have set ourselves in the beginning. And sometimes you want to check, hey, are you still doing the right thing? Or did you change something significantly? And this is why I turned to our basement and fetched this slide that we used since the beginning of IDSA to find out, so what is our reason to be? What is our job that has to be done? And where are we located within all the other organizations? And I did not put logos on this slide because logos always tend to, well, people understand them wrong and they ask, so why is not my logo here? But a more structural picture. So where did we start from? Dataspace is a new thing. We started from research. We have this push from research with great activities to understand, well, how can we share data? How can we use data? How can this be combined with the legal regulations that we have? And by the way, so I'm a computer scientist. There is also something like research and development for regulations. And this is what we are seeing happening. So this is where we're grounded and where we still get major support in driving data spaces forward. We will have a view on that a little bit later also today. So this is where we drive from. And then we have not-for-profit organizations, IDSA, others. So this is for us what our job is. We have to deal with reference architecture models, the certification scheme, our rule book, all the things that we know that we are doing. And then there is a market, and the market, they shall build software, commercial software, open source software, and all those cool things. And of course, it is on us to organize and orchestrate this a little bit, to assure that the things go in line and converge to a certain point of time. That is our job. That is our role description. This is it since the beginning. And I would like to put a spotlight on the top because I just had a brief chance to take a look at the chat. There are many players out that will bring the approach of data spaces to life. We have to bring all of them together and make the right supportive measures to really let the things converge and let's be built so that it's really usable in the future, that data spaces are really a reality. So this is a market that we have to address. And so looking back those roughly 8 years, well, the boxes were not that balanced as it shows here. We have a lot of research in the past, and we're having more and more markets today. So, but what has also been done in the market, and this is what you see on the next slide, that we need 2 aspects here. One aspect is a collaboration in the market. So we have to collaborate together with the industrial players, together with the players from the industry, to come up with a common set of services in open source. So we have to work together, bring our risks together here, build something that we have in common that all of you can use. And of course, it has to be built on the work that we have done in IDSA together with the many other players that I will not list and name today. Lars did this earlier with this overview. So we have to support this collaboration so that you can differentiate in the market afterwards. Because of course it's about business and you will differentiate in the market afterwards, but you can share a common collaboration if you want to. If you want to go alone, that's also perfectly fine. And I'm not the one to judge on this. But this is an important point. This is one reason why we supported and enabled the rise of the new Eclipse Dataspace working group on the next slide. So some insights on this new player on the game. So the Dataspace working group inside the Eclipse Foundation was started a couple of weeks ago. On the 3rd of November, we had our kickoff meeting for this working group. And this group has a clear scope and goal also, with no overlap, by the way, to the IDSA work. So the core objective is to support projects which build code, which build framework that support you in the creation of data spaces. So maybe a core. So what are the core components? What are the core protocols that you need to implement and to build and to run a data space? The group will align different open source projects, not by a dictator, bottom up, but to provide a forum so that open source projects can exchange, can talk to each other, and can align with each other how to implement things, when to implement things. What are the priorities that we have to go for first, and what is on the long run later on to be done? So this is really in the core also of this group and where we have to really focus on in the beginning. But of course, we see a lot of new projects upcoming. So we had in the presentation of Anil just before this notion of the control plane and the data plane. Those data planes need to be built, so in a different way. What kind of protocol are you talking? What kind of data are you using? Do you use streaming data, big data, whatever? And we want to also integrate some advanced technologies like privacy enhancing, privacy preserving technologies, usage policy enforcement, and all those cool things. They need to be built somewhere. And a project inside the Eclipse Foundation could be one answer to that beyond others, as we see closed source projects, so companies providing cool software that will support that, or other open source initiatives like Fiber, for example. They do already do exactly this. And so this is another player on this round table where we work together to build together things. And all those additional optional components that you will in the end need to build a data space for your domain, but they go far beyond what IDSA is able to do so. And the third pillar is the management of participants and partners in this network, and to support this data space authority. As said before, however it looks like. So you need tools for data space management, maybe a participant registry, maybe a member management, and also starter kits, starter points where you can all work to experiment, to build, and then in the end, build reliable on top of that. So our job as IDSA has to be that we will bring the voice of all of you, of the members, to this table to make sure that the work that is done in such open source project that claim to build data spaces is aligned with the work of IDSA. That is our job. We collect your voices. We will be your voice into this community to funnel this really, but of course also backwards. So this group is new, so not too much to present and too much to explain for the time being, but we will continuously inform all of you, first of all our members, but also everyone else, what is happening there. This is our job to ensure transparency and to connect those different things. So this is really a great tool. I'm super proud that we have this because we see that this is really growing. We get an industrial impact that needs to be supported, that needs to be organized, and it has to make sure that the things are coherent, they converge to each other, and not go astray to somewhere. So that will be great in 2024, bringing up this group to make it really operational, and then let's do it some good work inside. And with that, Thorsten, back to you.
Thank you, Sebastian. 10 points go to Dortmund, and I'm calling Barcelona because next it is my dear colleague Silvia Castellvi, and she will give us some information about IDS on its way to become an ISO standard. Silvia, are you ready to go?
Yes, thank you. Can you put the first slide? Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. All
okay.
good. Andreas will take care for the slides.
Okay, thank you. Standardization, I will try very briefly to transfer what is happening regarding standardization at IDSA. It's very hard because there are a lot of things at this moment, but a clear message. First message, two clear messages. The first one, standardization is right now the moment, so it's a must, as Sebastian said. This is the right moment to make all great IDSA achievements to become a formal standard. We have seen before from Lars' presentation and Sebastian that a lot of activities are needed, not just the formal standardization, also creating de facto standard. We have been working a lot of years on that, and now we are bringing it to the standardization bodies, standardization committees. So thank you all of you for your efforts, because this is a great achievement from our members. And we have taken this picture, this circle from Klaus, to visualize which are the activities around standardization, to communicate it in one image, very short, okay, brief. So here you can see 4 domains where we are pushing standardization activities: data space specifics, identity and trust, very important, also data training, how to generate value, and important to understand one each other, the semantics. And you can see the subtopics in all these fields. If you go to the next slides, you can see we have tried to represent here where we are active participating. We as a head office or close partners, members of IDSA. And here you can see standardization committees on ISO, but also Eclipse. Eclipse, as Sebastian explained it before, is going to play a key role in order to standardize, for example, Dataspace protocol, as explained it before. But we will continue the activities on cybersecurity, the steering committee 27. And also we have other activities in other environments, for example, liaison with the European Commission that is pushing for regulations, and this has an impact because the regulation published by the European Commission should be standardized, so we are aligning also with the European Commission. And very important at European level, the activities from Sensenelec. Let me go, because we don't have too much time, next slide, but let me go a little bit next minutes. You can, yeah, here. On this part, next slide, on this part of the data space specific. So let's see what is happening. Go to the next slide. And here you can see that there are 2 important initiatives under Eclipse as presented before. These initiatives will support on the standardization purpose of the Dataspace protocol. This activity has not started yet, but participation on Eclipse is going to contribute to the formal standardization. We will continue with the standardization of DIN-SPEC under Steering Committee 27 on cybersecurity. And here, very important, the activities developed by our members, very active members, on a Steering Committee 38, where Sebastian is directly participating. And here under the working group 5, we have 2 important projects related to standardization. One on the organizational autonomy and digital sovereignty, that they are defining how implement digital sovereignty. And here we can contribute on data sovereignty aspects, but very relevant and very important, the project 2151 data spaces, because here we are going to standardize, and here we have our first standard. But this is at international level, but at European level, Sensenelec has recently approved, or is going to approve, a new focus group or technical group. We don't have clear information what it will happen, or maybe both, in order to standardize data spaces. This activity has not started, is going to be approved very soon this month, and we expect having news about that. But we also establish liaisons with standardization committees, very important, very relevant for data spaces, IoT and digital twins. We have initiated a liaison with a working group on digital twins extraction and transaction of data components, where we are aligning on how to standardize or to define how to standardize digital twins and data spaces. But also important, the activities on the artificial intelligence, SC42, where we have key stakeholders under Big Data Value Association. So as you can see, very relevant. This is the right moment to push for formal standardization, and we need all of your support. So if you want to contribute, please contact me, and we are happy to align and collaborate all together. Thank you, Thorsten. Thank you, all of you.
Perfect. 10 points go to Barcelona as well. And now we are even broadening a little bit because if there are any questions, it is now the time to ask them. And we have Sebastian, we have Anil, we have Silvia and Lars there. And I see one raised hand from Alberto Crespo. Please, Alberto, can you open your mic and your camera, or is it not possible? I don't know.
Sorry, it was a mistake. No.
Okay. Nevertheless,
sorry.
nice to meet. Nice to meet you, and nice to see you. Okay, so don't be shy. If there are no questions, maybe the questions have all been asked in the chat already, and I see also that they have been answered. Michael Schäfer has a question. Please, Michael.
Yeah. Hi to the IDS folks and IDSA folks and to all of you out there. So it's great to join this event, and I would like to start with a great thank you to you, Lars, and all your team. I think you have done a great job in the last couple of years, and also with this presentation, with laying out the red rope of data spaces. This is really great. Also. To see that and to join that effort. And I think, how has Angela Merkel said, this is alternativlos. I think there is no alternative to that what you're doing. So it's really great. What I'm wondering is how we as, let's say, in quotes, customers will be able to follow that red rope. What I can say from our perspective, from the mobility data space, we're a small company, and our great focus is adoption. Transactions. Yeah, so we're counting transactions, and we understand very much that in order to be interoperable with all of you, we must implement and follow those standards. But we are suffering very much from the huge variety, or maybe not variety, but of the huge amount of standards we have to follow. And for us, it's very, very difficult to recede or to digest the standards. And I'm wondering whether you can also work on making the access for us to the standards and to follow them easier as before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael, for this question. And I don't know, should I give it to the Dortmund office or to Silvia? I don't know. Sebastian and Lars are positioning themselves in front of the camera. So maybe Sebastian and Lars, try to answer. Or co-comment.
Yeah.
And by the way, Michael, thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Also, thanks for joining. I think this could be really a round of answers, because I'm also curious what Silvia would say to that, and also what Lars want to say. But I can start, so in a good position. So, Michael, one point that is for me important. I hope you know that your voice has been heard, because well, the mobility data space topics have been discussed during the last weeks in an intense way in the IDSA working groups. So we are aware of what we're doing, and this is discussed in the IDSA working groups, and it is addressed in the IDSA working groups. And I know that it does not always feel like for all of you, because all of you can't be in each and every meeting. I'm aware of that, but I'm always pretty surprised how well this works, that the voices are heard, and the questions, the problems that you have, the challenges are addressed. We did not always deliver in time with all of your challenges. Well, you also delivered tough challenges, so give us sufficient time to work on that. But you raised another important point about standardization, what to follow and where to follow. So the standardization activities are pretty new. So we started, and I said this earlier today, something like 7, maybe 8 years before. And now we are here, we are doing standardization work. So this is new. And when this incubates the standardization work, you can't talk too much about this because there is not too much to talk about. But we're there. So we had some important results and successes during this year. And of course, we'll communicate about standardization and what things are relevant, what are the current developments in the future, even more. As said, it is great, it is happening now, and now we have to learn and to transport all those messages back to you to keep you informed on what is happening so that you can prepare and understand what is happening and what is the timeline of what is happening. Point taken, and we will improve on that.
And I also heard another wish from your side. So make life easier for the data space itself, but also for like the participants of a data space, the users, those who adhere to a data space. So we can act on two ends, but at the end we cannot solve it on our own. That is why we've mentioned it before. So we need to have commodity components and services, software components, however you call it. So we need connectors, but we also need other elements. So we need to have the identities. We need to stop discussing and just point people to what is available, clearing houses, marketplaces, whatever. So these offerings need to be there. So therefore, we need to reach out to those who actually ship these services and components. So I referred to it before, and we really need to see like who builds that technology. So we are working on innovation. That is what Sebastian said. And innovation calls for at the end a product. We need to see that we have them in place. So therefore, we start all these open source endeavors and other activities, reaching out to the market. The thing that we can immediately do is give transparency and lend a hand. So guide a little bit like, well, this is here, you can stick it together like that. So therefore, we will focus on this training, knowledge transfer, and consulting aspect. We will take actions on that end, like 5 steps to get started, things like this. Also, data connector report, data space technology landscape. And we need to continue staying in contact. Michael, with you, we are in a great contact. We are currently thinking of a data space roundtable together with the whole DSBA, so that we really listen and immediately act. So we need to be faster on all ends. I hope that was also helpful.
Perfect. Thank you, Lars and Sebastian. Silvia, anything to add from your side?
No, just that we are collaborating with the DSSC in order to map the standards against building blocks. This will facilitate a little bit to provide visibility and access to current standards. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I see 2 more questions, and let us briefly try to catch them after we proceed with the second part. So I see first was Amit. Please speak up.
Thank you, Thorsten. My name is Amit, and I am coming as an enterprise architect from a manufacturing company in Norway. I've been following the data spaces concept for last 2 years and very interested in it. And we wanted to make a data space for our manufacturing operations, right? The challenge that I face with this is that to get a buy-in on this from the corporate, we need some concrete use cases. So data spaces is a lot of concepts and a lot of frameworks that are coming together, and it has a very long-term path. And I see that I try to go with the Catena-X, which is probably the most advanced data space that you have. But we need to show business value to get involved. And then you start talking of, okay, a particular use case which will bring in some money or which will bring in some saving or some kind of standardization on top of it, right? So that it will make our path easier in the long term. And that is where I find a little bit of a challenge in this, to be honest. So for example, you have
Yes.
Catena X. So yeah, that was basically my question.
Yeah,
I hand it over to Lars, please.
yeah, Amit, thank you for being involved. Thank you for giving it a try to build a data space. We would love to support you. But let me use your statement also with a bold statement from my side. We cannot help you on the business rationale. Sorry. And this is something that we are discussing very often in the data space world. The data spaces are just a tool. If you don't know what to do with the tool, then you probably don't need it. And some data space discussions are artificial. I'm absolutely convinced that we will immediately find some very, very good business rationals when the both of us talk. I'm sure. And there are a lot of knowledgeable people out there which will also find these business rationals. But the ecosystems, they need to find the rationale first on their own and then use data space as a tool. As I mentioned before, so the whole data economy and AI will not work without more data available. If maybe the ecosystem is not advanced enough, then maybe it's not the right moment. But I'm also very convinced it needs a little bit massaging and knowledge transfer, also educating the ecosystem. And this is where our ecosystem here can be of help, and we would love to work together with you. Yeah, my answer. So great to see something new arising there.
Thank you for your answer, Carlos. Actually, that is the reason I would like to have this consulting service or a little bit from Dataspace, and I'm very, very hopefully looking forward to that.
We will also help you to connect to some organizations which we know. Perfect.
Right.
Okay, then there is one last question. Peter Verkulen, before we go to the next part.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning to everybody. I have a question about, let's say, the brand fresh update that Lars gave about the DSBA CEO workshop. So it's great that we see this convergence now, and I think that's also one of the earlier questions, that we also need this, that let's say initiatives don't have to bother where to go, but that there is a converged and combined approach. I have two, let's say, somewhat related questions on this picture. The first one is whether there is also already a roadmap agreed, some timelines for this, let's say, technical conversions that is mentioned. And related to that, I would then expect a link between, let's say, that, well, let's call it convergence layer and the yellow implementation level that's in this picture, because there will, for instance, then I would expect some links also with, for instance, Simple, also looking at the award that has been published recently for the first lot over there.
Yeah, Peter, thank you for that question. Short answer. So yes, we have that. You know the technical convergence document of DSBA, which is currently existing in version 2. We will very shortly make it to a version 3. And our ambition, and I need to check with Sebastian and the other CTOs, is to have it at the same time like the Blueprint 1.0 from the Dataspaces Support Center. And then synchronously move on in the future. The version 3 will be like really a super congruent and stable version of the DSBA architecture. So will be the Blueprint version 1 of the DSSC. You are part of all of these endeavors. Let's see that we make it happen, because then we can give a clear answer of what are the building blocks and where are the components to make these building blocks happen, and what needs to go to standardization, what is already on its track. And then we hopefully have this very clear alignment from all our reference architectures to the technical convergence of the SBA, to the blueprint from DSSC, and then all the standardization activities that Silvia has just shown. I think that gives you the right direction and more discussion. Happy to have it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Lars. Now we are jumping immediately, because time is running, to the second part. Andreas, please go to the next slide, because we have now my dear colleague Gianfranco Cecconi, who will share with us some insight about the focus campaign for Dataspace's software and services, which was addressed by Lars already briefly in his introduction. So Gianfranco, are you with us? Please
I'm
go
here.
ahead. Perfect.
So thank you, Thorsten, and good afternoon, everybody. For the ones of you who don't know me, I'm actually a new addition to the team. As you will see more of me over the next few years. But to cut it short, I joined the CXOs as solutions officer. I'm very happy to be with you. And on the side, in my spare time, let's say, I also operate the Dataspace Support Center for the European Union at the service of Professor Borisotto. So for sure, one more, let's say, more muscle to the IDSA to deliver our mission. But if we can go to the next slide, I only have a few minutes, but I want to share with you something that is quite important for us in 2024 in particular. We started talking about this a few months ago, but we really want to accelerate the rhythm, the speed of adoption. And we are going to do this with something that we call the focus campaign for Dataspace products and services. We will call for cloud service providers and software vendors to take a stand, to back us, and to integrate IDS compliant products and services in their offering. Nothing will make it more real than when commercial producer vendors out there will really start providing and making available in their offers IDS compliant services. We invite them to witness their choice by promoting the Dataspace protocol directly, and at this point in today's program, you know everything about it, but also joining the Eclipse Dataspace working group that also learned what specific mission it has to foster that kind of open source implementation that brings the Dataspace protocol to real life application. This is not just a plan, this is actually real already. To the right, you actually see the letter that we persuaded our friends at Competence to send literally on paper and signed by the board to the major cloud providers that they have a network with. This was literally sent only a few days ago on the 5th, and it obviously it broke the ice of the campaign. It's not just about this specific act, of course. There's a renewed drive for the support of our members that, of course, as Lars explained earlier, so clearly are still the source of most of our capacity and energy. And this needs to be accompanied with more robust commitment also to the working groups and to the European Dataspace Working Group itself, where this becomes softer. So over the next few months, we'll let's say ride on top of the Catena X opening, get new organizations friendly to IDSA to promote the Dataspace protocol and the Eclipse working group, and invite all of our members to be more active and contributors, systematic contributors to the working groups. The work does not do itself. This is all from me, Thorsten. I will be around later for questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Gianfranco. And as Gianfranco is based in the Netherlands, 10 points also go to the Netherlands. Now we jump back to Spain, to Barcelona, Catalonia. Silvia, it is again you. We are hearing something how the R&D projects will interplay with the work IDSA is doing, because as you know, we are involved in some funded projects, and this overview and summary will be given by Silvia. Please.
Thank you, Thorsten. Yes, R&D projects are a key or exercise a key role in order to enabling to develop our assets or activities. So if you go to the first slide, I want to show you very briefly. At this moment, we are finalizing some projects this year. We are starting new projects next year. So more than 30 projects, but in fact, actively, we are involved around 24 projects for next year. 5 new projects starting next year, and here you can see that we are involved in 4 projects, energy sector specific, 2 projects agri-food sector specific, and 1 on financial sector. 5 of them are German projects. You can see the logos. I cannot enter on details. If you go to the next slide, please. You can see more projects and the new ones starting this year. 2 of these projects are CSA. One is the Dataspace Support Center that Gianfranco mentioned before, but also Openverse in order to support the projects implementing Metaverse. So interesting topic for us. If you go to the next slide, but the purpose of participating in research projects is supporting, enabling the core assets of IDSA. So we need to achieve the right balance in order to execute the research project, but also to support IDSA assets and great achievements for all members and for going to the market, because this is the purpose. We have identified 4 important lines where we are addressing this support to the project. One is providing the architecture, the reference architecture, how to design, trying to include IDSA components and assets in all the projects, also supporting standardization activities. We are also defining a life cycle process, how research projects can support on standardization, and also how to better conduct the standardization activities in research projects, because sometimes it's just a reporting and not contributing to the standardization committees. And we are addressing it in order to support projects to contribute to standardization committees. Very important, dissemination and also community building. And of course, the interoperability, the Dataspace protocol. Let me go very quickly to provide you 2 examples on how we use data spaces in order to push interoperability. So because the purpose is creating impact through research projects and facilitating go to the market. So we are participating in 2 projects on energy sector. Next year, we're starting with 2 more projects on energy sector. So we have created a task force in order to collaborate with first energy data spaces on how to achieve technical and semantic interoperability. Sonia Jimenez is leading these activities. Contact her if you want to know more about this. And you can find on our website the first paper published, but the second iteration to go on in more detail how to implement the technical interoperability is in progress. If you go to the next slide, I can provide you another example on how we use, for example, the prominent position that we have in some projects, the ecosystem, for example, around industrial sector, to create awareness and identify opportunities and create dialogue around digital product passport, because this is an important topic for manufacturing, for industry. So we have promoted 2 workshops in order to identify key stakeholders, key projects that are working on digital product passport. The last workshop was 1st of December. We had more than 116 registration and around 100 participants to discuss how to integrate digital product passport and data spaces. So if you want to know more about these activities, please contact ICNUR. You have the email below. These are 2 examples how we are going beyond what we are doing on research projects in order to achieve impact. Thank you, Thorsten. That's all from my side.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Silvia. And we are now focusing on the adoption part, and therefore I'm calling my colleagues Carlos Gonzalez. Christoph won't be with us, but it will be Carlos. Exactly. Carlos will share with us news and new stars detected concerning the Dataspace radar. Carlos, please go ahead.
Yeah, so hello everyone, very happy to be here before you and wrapping up another successful day, a successful year for Dataspaces and another successful year for IDSA. So very happy to share a couple of our assets and topics that I'm taking care of. So first, let's start with the Dataspaces radar. So this is a very, very important tool that we have here on IDSA, because here you can see what's going on in Dataspaces, what's the rate of adoption of Dataspaces, how this is increasing. So if we cut to next slide, we can see the actual radar. So here you can find all of the current Dataspaces and use cases based on the IDS standard. So this can be found on different grades of maturity and of course different domains. So we can find several examples on the health domain, energy, mobility, etc. So it's amazing to see how fast this adoption of Dataspaces is increasing, because we see that in this year only we have welcomed over 40 entries to the radar, so over 40 Dataspaces and use cases. And I would like to highlight a couple of hidden gems in the radar. So we could spend hours talking about these examples, but I would like to showcase two of them. So next slide, we can see the Dataspaces tourism from the Green Data Hub. So this is an initiative by the Data Intelligence Offensive in Austria. So here we see that we are addressing a very important problem, a very important challenge. So how can we scale tourism while taking into consideration sustainability? So we see that nowadays tourism is cheaper. Anyone can travel. It's cheaper to book hotels. It's cheaper to go anywhere, and it's more accessible for people. So how can we take care of climate? How can we take care of the environment while increasing this tourism? So the success of this Dataspace relies on data sharing, of course. So data sharing between accommodation providers, between transport associations, weather forecast providers. So this data sharing has to happen so we can overcome problems like tourism overflow, etc. So this is made possible by this Dataspace. This is definitely an upcoming great one, a hidden gem. And then if we go to the next slide, we can see another hidden gem in the mobility sector. So we can see InOnX. So this is another great Dataspace example that lies within our Dataspaces radar. And here the challenge is to unlock all this mobility, transport, and tourism data by gathering together all these service providers in order to improve and create more services for the end users. So of course, the success of this Dataspace relies on the creation of these large federated data catalogs within the mobility domain. And the benefits we already see that derive from this, from unlocking the value of this data. We see that process are improving for all these mobility participants, for all these mobility users. And this can be translated into savings, among other benefits. So these are some of the Dataspaces that have joined the radar this year, and I would like to take more time to present what's coming, what's the future of this asset that we have here in IDSA. So if we go to next slide, we can see the upcoming Dataspaces radar. So there's a very, very exciting tool lying ahead of us. So next month we will release the new Dataspaces radar. And before showing you what's inside this tool, I would like to highlight some of the top characteristics of this new radar. So first of all, we will have an improved user experience. And I promise you that you will want to spend hours navigating through this radar when we release it. So we have a better touch and feel for the tool, improved user experience. Then we will also have a capacity to host more and more Dataspaces and use cases. And we will, of course, have more forms of visualization. So we will, of course, count on the classic radar view, but you will have access to many charts, graphs, and other ways you can surf these Dataspace examples. And of course, better filtering functionalities. So we will continue having the free-form search, but you can also surf among different filters, among different categories, depending on what you want to look for. So this Dataspace radar will be live on January 8th. And I will like to show you a bit more of what's inside this radar. And of course, if you want to see more about it, you can have a sneak peek in our website. So going to next slide, we can see what's inside of the new radar. So first of all, we have 5 different views. So as I mentioned, we have still the classic radar view, but you can also take a look of the progress of data spaces, how this is increasingly growing by visiting the chart view, the table view, the building blocks view, and other views. So you can have different options. We also have now up to 18 sectors to categorize all these different entries. So we can be more specific of where data spaces are located. So financial sector, energy sector, language, etc. So we have up to 18 sectors to categorize all these different entries to the radar. And of course, as I mentioned, we have several charts to get a better understanding of the data spaces growth. So we can analyze different KPIs from these data spaces. And then if we go to next slide, we can also see that we are going global with this. So as we all know, the data space standard will be a global standard, and we are very happy to see that we are crossing borders this year. So we have more and more data space examples coming from outside of Europe, and we want to have a better geographical overview of this. So now we have a map where you can see where data spaces are popping up in the year. So I'm really looking forward to next year coming back on stage here and presenting that we have data spaces in all parts of the world, all continents. And finally, we have technical transparency, so you can see what data spaces are made of. So what are the components, technical components that they are including, that they're implementing according to the technical building blocks. So this is all about the data spaces radar. If you want to have a sneak peek into this tool, feel free to take a look in our website. We have several screenshots and we have information on what you can expect from this tool. And again, this is going live on January 8th. So back to you, Thorsten.
Thank you, Carlos. And you can just proceed, because the next topic is on hubs and competence centers, labs and ambassadors. So I think it will also be you, right?
Yes. So
and together maybe with our colleague Mario. So sorry.
Yeah. Perfect. So I would like to now speak about some of our multipliers. So if we go to next slide, we have 3 different concepts. So what are our hub facilitators, competence centers, and research labs? So starting with the hub facilitators, these guys are organizations which act as a center of knowledge and expertise within a country, and that orchestrate activities of the whole IDSA hub in a country, which is the sum of all of the members and adopters of data spaces. And we're very happy to say that we have now 13 hub facilitators all across Europe and Asia. And then we have the competence centers. These are also organizations that are specializing in data spaces, but that they are doing so within a specific competence or domain. And we have now 5 competence centers also across Europe and Asia. And we lastly have the role of the research labs. So research labs are not entities, but they are projects going along data spaces that are hosted by a scientific organization. And the idea of these research labs is to bring together industry players within research projects in order to develop IDS-based components, IDS-based technology that can be adopted by the market. So this is a very new concept, and we are very happy to have established the first labs this year. So we have 1 research lab in Shanghai and 1 research lab in Tokyo. So if we come to next slide, we can see a map of how this is all distributed. And I would like to say that we can be very proud of the growth of data spaces around the world. We can be very proud of this image because we are going out of Europe, we are going global, and we are breaking barriers, we are crossing borders, we are reaching new languages, new cultures, and we're bringing all of this together. We're making the world smaller by sharing the motivation for secure and sovereign data sharing. So I don't have time to speak about every one of these multipliers, which are bringing a lot of value to IDSA, but I would like to just briefly present the new ones that are joining this group of multipliers. So starting with the industry innovation cluster in Bratislava. This is a very important manufacturing cluster that is hosting the hub facilitator for IDSA since October this year. Then we have the University of Tokyo and the Data Society Alliance in Japan. They have also just established the hub facilitator last month, and this was inaugurated in these Dataspaces Discovery Days that took place on November 22nd. And we are also expecting a lot of exciting next steps in Dataspaces alongside collaboration with the Japanese government and several stakeholders within our Japanese ecosystem. Then we also have the China Future Internet Engineering Center and the Shanghai Jiaotong University in China. So the first one is the Competence Center located in Beijing, and the second one is hosting the IDS Research Lab in Shanghai. So we also have a very vibrant and wide ecosystem in China with several members that are currently working in many IDS implementations. So we can also expect exciting news from China in the upcoming years. And then we have the Digital Connect Society in Malaysia. This is our youngest facilitator. They have just joined this group this week, and we are very excited to also bring Dataspaces to Malaysian collaboration with them. And lastly, we have Meditech, which is the Competence Center in Italy. They will specialize in bringing IDS-based trainings, showrooms, and hosting the testbeds. So we can expect many news from these competence centers, labs, and hubs. And if we go to next slide, we see another one of our multipliers, which are the IDSA ambassadors. So IDSA has just launched the ambassador program this year. And this is a group of Dataspace experts and Dataspace enthusiasts that are taking Dataspaces everywhere they go. So they are waving the IDSA flag, the Dataspaces flag, and they are promoting secure and sovereign data sharing. So we are very happy to count on this group of knowledgeable people, of passionate Dataspace believers, and we have just commemorated along the year 24 of them. So we started doing so. Thorsten and I, we commemorated the first ones in April this year in China, and then during our events in Italy, in Austria, and in Japan, we also commemorate the following IDSA ambassadors. So we are really lucky to count on this group of experts, and we are really excited to see what next year brings, and which new ambassadors are going to be welcome to the group. So very happy to have all these multipliers on board, and really excited to see what lies ahead. Back to you, Thorsten.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Carlos, for sharing this this important news and information. Due to the time which is passing, and maybe everyone wants to step out at 12:30, we will skip the Q&A here. Maybe we have at the end 1 or 2 minutes more. Please feel free to share your questions in the chat, and then we will work afterwards to either reach out to you bilaterally or simply answer it in a written way. So therefore, we are now outlooking and what can be expected soon, and therefore I'm calling again Sebastian with some upcoming changes to the testbed activities. Sebastian, are you there? Maybe
yes,
this was a little bit too fast. No, you are there. Perfect. Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Just thought we had 10 minutes Q&A. So, and I will also try to be real fast on the new testbed to save a little bit of our precious time. So, first slide, IDSA reference testbed. So, ta-da, there it is. You all know the current IDS reference testbed. Hey, that's a great thing. So what we did, we built this IDS reference testbed, which is a foundation for the current IDS certification, which is, by the way, delivering the first IDS compliant connectors that are certified. So stay tuned on this one. So this is the one thing. We needed this to conduct our certification, and we're successful with that. And at the same time, it's a complete set of the required software components that you need to build or to join the Dataspace, completely pre-configured. So you can download it and start playing. And this is what people do to get an understanding how it really technically works, and to have a proof that the foundation is there to build a Dataspace to get started. So this is what we have today, and it is great. And we have a lot of complaints and disadvantages of the current setup that we have. So we have to work on this. We are not there yet. We mentioned earlier, it's also about innovation, and that's what we do. So what's next? So on the next slide, you will see that we have, of course, a strong focus on the Dataspace protocol, which is a very important proof then to show that you're really compliant to Dataspace criteria. And we have to include the new specification of the Dataspace protocol also on the testbed. That means we have to dig deeper into the certification criteria, of course. But what we realize is, well, it doesn't change too much in the criteria itself. But what it does change is, well, we need a different way to prove compliance. And this is one aspect of the Dataspace protocol that we're going to work, or that we're already working on and going to finalize, so-called TCK, a technology compliance kit. Basically, so technically it's a test suite. Just some test cases are being run by a Gradle runner to just check so if you're really compliant to the Dataspace protocol or not, including the happy pass. So yes, you're writing the right message, you're sending the right messages back, and also the wrong pass. So the unhappy pass. Well, I send you the wrong message, and let's see if you behave correctly on the other hand side. So this is what we're building. And of course, this will be integrated in the next version of the IDS reference testbed to support IDS certification. We have additional criteria and functionality in the IDS certification, so we're going to add this one. And so the current IDS reference testbed will be replaced the next year, and I expect also in the years afterwards, with really testing agents. So not running systems, but with really test suite that you can also integrate directly into your CI/CD pipelines, so that you can test on the fly during the development if you're compliant already, or still depending on what you're currently doing. So this will be an important vehicle for IDS certification. We are working on this, and help is always welcome to work on this. And why can we do that? On the one hand side, yes, because we can. That's the most important driver. But I mentioned on the slide before that we had another important aspect about the first IDS reference testbed. To give you a minimum viable data space, a starting point, some technology that you can start with. Well, we don't need any more because there are others. We have a DSBA demonstrator. We have a fileware connector that is supporting the architecture coherence. We have the Eclipse Dataspace component. We have our Basecamp activities, and a lot of other components and setup that will help you to build your systems to get started. As mentioned in my slide earlier, so the market is taking up, research is providing some cool results. So we have there a broad landscape of things that you can use. So this is why minimum viable data space goes to the one side, and the reference testbed is really stripped down to be a compliance proving thing in the future. That's what we're working on. You are warmly invited to support us on this journey. And of course, we will continuously inform you about what is happening.
Thank you very much, Sebastian, for this update on the testbed. And I'm calling now Paris, because my dear colleague Antoine will tell us some news and information about the future IDSA working group training. Antoine, please go ahead.
Thank you, Thorsten, and good afternoon, everyone. Yes, talking about the market that is taking up. Let's talk about the trainings, because it's been a request from the ecosystem for some time already, and it's been particularly true in recent time, right? So actually, some of you started to work on this either for initial education at university, for instance. We are aware of a couple of courses available in here and there, or for vocational training. And us on IDSA side, as you might be aware, we have been featuring a couple of education offers on our website directly. But so far, we had no, let's say, active part in this, and no consistent approach as of today. Well, we'd like that to change. And on the next slide, you can see that we'd like to establish a comprehensive training program within IDSA that would be backed, that would be directly relying on our framework, our common framework, so that everyone is able, to move forward and receive the appropriate training, so that we can eventually build those beloved data space. So for that, we need those three things, or we are working on those three things that you can see here pictured in the squared box. So on the left side, the overarching professional accreditation program. This is something that outline a number of profiles. So currently we are working on two of them that are rather at a general level. So I'm talking about Dataspace technical consultant and Dataspace business consultant. They come over with a list of course, and they are directly related to some accreditation that will be official. So this is this complete overview that encompasses this professional accreditation program. But for that, and to get this common understanding that I was talking about, so that we have a consistent approach, right? We need to agree on a number of things. So that's the reason we are, and we want to develop a true body of knowledge. So this this wording might not be completely strange to some of you. This is the knowledge that is shared by practitioner in a given field. So in our case, the field of data space, and especially relying on the IDSA framework. So that's what we'd like to gather in order to let a training provider to create the training that would be in turn validated and to get the accreditation, right? So you have this body of knowledge, the pillar that will in turn be used to get your accreditation. So that's the second one. And of course, we need a place to discuss that that matter, sorry. And this is the working group training. And just as the other existing one within IDSA, that would be the place to discuss the development and the maintenance of this body of knowledge, but also about some criteria for engaging with training provider, especially, and things like that. So all the things that need to be dealt when it comes to training in order to have a consistent approach. For that, we have set up a quite ambitious timeline, if you can see it in, as you can see it in the next slide. This is an agenda that is informative, right? We would like to respect that, but it might come with some adjustment, but at least you get an idea of the time frame. And for that, as you can see on the first blue line, we are currently working on an early version of the body of knowledge that we hope to share with the interested parties by end of January, and especially announce that during the winter days. In turn, that we'd let training providers starting to work on the material, leading us to an up and running program somewhere at the end of Q1 2024. By the time we are also setting up the working group, meaning that those interested, don't hesitate to drop me a line already in the chat. I will be adding my email address, and this call goes to anyone interested by training, actually, whether for partnering. If you get any remarks, so drop me a line. I'll be adding my email address in the chat in a minute. So that would be all on my side, Thorsten. So back to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Antoine, and also 10 points to France in this case. Now we are coming back to Germany. Andreas, it is up to you to share with us some sources, some publications, and also explain about the events which are coming early next year. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Thorsten. I think it's also up to me to save some time. I should do it in minus 10 minutes, I guess, but that won't be possible. I will do it very quickly. Of course, the task of the Marcom team is, among others, to make visible what great things are going on. So what the big assets are developed and the efforts done to adopt data spaces. And for this, of course, we have this very, very beautiful magazine, which was published again with a new issue this year, with more than 70 pages on what all is going on in the world of data spaces. The connector report was already mentioned, and this year we really managed to publish 8 issues, and the number of available connectors is growing from month to month. In the meantime, we have 28 connectors, and they are features and technology aspects in this brochure, so that you can really see what connector would help you to connect you with the data space. We have talked about the data spaces which are already out there. So Lars said we now have 2 hands full. In the future, we might have 5,000. How this number of data spaces is growing, you can see it here in the data spaces report. And it shows also how beneficial a data space is. So if you really want to learn a little bit about the benefits, but also about the components which are used, the challenges which are tackled, then you find it here in this radar brochure. And we published really 3 new editions this year. And we are going more and more towards domain-focused radar brochures to show the data spaces which are flourishing in the different domains. 2 new papers. The one on the bottom was already presented by Silvia. Another one is very important, that is the upper one, the data spaces landscape, which shows how the different initiatives in the world of data spaces work together and are converging and are strongly working towards a common goal. Not only publications are important to make the work visible, of course, events are very, very important to provide stages on which we can present, and all our members and partners can present what they did, what they achieved, and what they now do. And so this year again, we had 3 further data space discovery days, one in Naples, organized together with Meditech and other Italian partners. It was the first opportunity to honor the before mentioned ambassadors. You can see here, for example, Angelo Giuliana, who is holding his certificate in his hands. And I can tell you, it was a very emotional moment. And 1 week later in Vienna, where a data space was launched, a data space for the circular economy. So that is what they did on the left top picture. And then in Japan, which is also very remarkable and very important ecosystem, and a country which really does a lot of effort to connect with the world and to connect data spaces. But that were events from the past. We will also have events in 2024, and I like to highlight 2 big ones which take place already in February and in March. The left one is the IDSA Winter Days, the first on-site winter days since the time before the pandemic. They will take place in The Hague, where maybe you already participated in the first Data Spaces Symposium. The IDSA Winter Days will be embedded in the Data Sharing Festival, an event organized by our very, very engaged Dutch community, which will, of course, show data spaces which were initiated in the Netherlands, but will now conquer the world. Part of this Data Sharing Festival is the IDSA Winter Days as a community event for you, for our members. And there we will talk about your challenges, but also your endeavors. We will talk about your questions and provide answers in a very interactive way. And we would love to welcome you there. So come to this community event to the Netherlands to present your data space projects, but also to get many, many inspirations for your work. Then 5 weeks later in March in Frankfurt, we will have the second Dataspaces Symposium. So it was really a huge success this year with the first Dataspaces Symposium, where we had almost 750 guests and all very, very interested in the Dataspaces topic. Many new faces, which shows the huge interest. And we will continue this successful series in the future in many other countries. And we will continue now in Germany with the Dataspace Symposium in Frankfurt. And the motto is Unite, Innovate, and Adopt. We will show great examples how dataspaces are united cross-border, cross-domain, but also how countries work together and big companies work together to connect dataspaces, to build dataspaces. And of course, we will show what innovative mode potential is in the dataspace and what benefits could be drawn out of the dataspace. And then, of course, how are they already adopted and how can they be adopted? So it is about building more dataspaces towards the goal of 5,000 dataspaces. This was a very short insight in what the Marcom team is doing, and we are looking very much forward to meeting you at one of these two events or at both events. Back to you, Thorsten.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andreas. And please jump already to the last slide, because unfortunately we don't have time for Q&A. So I see that people are leaving and we are already 15 minutes over time. Therefore, I would propose, as you already did in the chat, leave your question with us and one of the colleagues will bilaterally come back to you in a written or in a personal way. At the end, I want to point to one survey. Please just participate. Why? Because we want to know what you are thinking about the work of IDSA. If you are interested getting engaged, also give us a hint what we could do better and which topics maybe we should focus on. So this survey is facilitated by my dear colleague Anna de Rivianco. You could also reach out to her bilaterally. Please click to the link, which is also in the chat. And with this, I thank you very much for participating, also for staying with us so long. And we are looking forward to a really great next year. Thank you all for being a data enthusiast and keep joining and keep talking to us and make data spaces happen. Thank you very much. Good Christmas and see you all next year. Bye-bye.